Hey, beautiful, please consider subscribing to our channel if you've been enjoying these stories. Your support helps a lot. Aid us in reaching our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The sound came first, a low rumble that rolled through the morning air like thunder trapped beneath the earth. Then came the crackling, dry wheat stalks snapping under pressure. And finally, the sight of her red SUV slicing through the field like a knife through silk, golden heads of wheat bent and broke beneath the tires, and my heart dropped with each turn of her wheels. I ran boots pounding against the dirt, hands clenched tight, eyes wide with disbelief and fury. My wheat, my father's land, my future crushed beneath the weight of entitlement, wrapped in leather seats and tinted windows. She stopped only when she reached the gravel path on the other side, rolled down the window like she was doing me a favor, smiled that smug smile that told me everything I needed to know, and said, "Morning, farmer, you really ought to pave a better road through here. That bump nearly spilled my latte." I stood there, breath heavy, heart pounding, trying to form words that didn't come out as a scream. "You can't drive through here. This is private property." She laughed, a short, sharp bark, like I'd told a joke that wasn't funny, but she was being polite. "Relax, it's just a field. I'm not hurting anything, and it saves me a whole 5 minutes." You really ought to be grateful. Then she drove off, just like that, leaving behind a wake of broken stalks and spinning dust. I stared after her until the red glint of her car disappeared into the line of suburban houses, beyond the fence line, and I whispered to no one, "I swear, if she does it again, she's gonna regret it." But she did. Again and again, every morning like clockwork. Same red SUV, same crunch of destruction, same smug wave through the window as she plowed through months of work, like it was a playground made for her convenience. I tried everything: signs, fences, hay bales stacked in neat barriers. She knocked them over or simply veered around them, said I was obstructing her route, said she'd talk to the HOA, said I was being aggressive. When I confronted her, I wasn't part of the HOA. This was farmland. It had been in my family for generations, but she didn't care. Her house sat on the edge of the development that bordered my property. And somehow, she decided, that meant she had rights to my land. I went to the sheriff. He sighed, said without solid video evidence it would be tough, said it was a civil matter, said I should talk to a lawyer, but lawyers cost money. Money I didn't have. This wheat field was everything. It wasn't just a crop. It was the last thing my father and I built together before he passed. It was the dream I'd been holding on to, one harvest away from paying off the debt that weighed on my back like lead. And every day she tore through. It, like my life, meant nothing. The neighbors sympathized. Sure, some waved sadly when they saw the damage. A few muttered that it was terrible what she was doing, but none of them stepped in. No one challenged her. She was loud, confident, always had some snarky excuse or threat to throw around. One morning, I caught her as she paused to take a call before tearing through the middle section. I stepped right in front of her vehicle. She honked, rolled down the window, and shouted, "You trying to get yourself run over? Move, I'm late. This is the last time. If you don't stop, I'll file charges. I've had enough. This is my land, and you're destroying it." Her eyes narrowed, then she smiled, a slow, curling grin that made my skin crawl. "Oh, honey, do you really think anyone cares about your little patch of weeds? Sue me then. Let's see how that goes for you. Maybe next time I won't miss." She drove off, and I stood there, shaking. Not from fear, from fury, from the pure, raw helplessness of watching everything I worked for crumble under the wheels of someone who saw herself above the rules. That night I walked through the field, my boots brushing through the broken stalks, the smell of earth and diesel still clinging to the air. It used to smell sweet. Now it just reeked of defeat. I knelt and picked up one of the stalks, crushed in half, just like the others, and I remembered my father's voice, strong and steady. Respect the land, son. It will respect you back. But what happens when someone else doesn't respect it? What then? The stars were out, clear and cold. I looked up, took a deep breath, and made a decision. If no one else was going to stop her, then I would. One way or another, the next morning was worse. She must have brought someone with her, because I heard laughter. Male voices, mocking tones. Someone shouted, "Nice crop, man. Real efficient road. You've got here." Then another round of tires through the wheat, deeper, wider. They were making fun of it, like it was a joke, like I was a joke. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on the porch, staring out across the field, a mug of cold coffee in one hand, the other clenched tight around the armrest. My mind turning like a storm. They say you should turn the other cheek, be the bigger person, take the high road. But what happens when the high road gets bulldozed by a red SUV every morning? Somewhere deep inside me, something snapped. Not rage, not revenge. Something colder, calmer focused. If she thought this was her playground, then maybe it was time I introduced her to a new game, one with rules. One where the land pushed back. I didn't have money, didn't have lawyers, but I had something better. Time, willpower, and a plan forming like thunder behind my eyes. She thought she was invincible. She thought no one could touch her, but every empire has a weakness, and I was going to find hers. That night I walked the length of the field, from fence line to fence line. Whispers of wind brushing past my ears, like the ghosts of promises made long ago. My father's words again, soft, steady. You know what grows best in broken soil, sun reckoning. The next morning, I watched from the edge of the trees, hidden silent. The red SUV appeared on the horizon, like a wound bleeding, into the dawn. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched as she barreled forward, unknowing, uncaring, oblivious to the fact that her reign was about to end. Tomorrow it begins. The morning sun cracked over the edge of the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the broken wheat. I stood near the barn, silent hands tucked into my jacket, as the red SUV came into view again. Same time, same arrogance, same sound of tires, grinding through what was once promise and patience. But this time, she wasn't alone. A man sat in the passenger seat, sunglasses, polo shirt, arms folded like he was born to dismiss people. She pointed toward the house as she drove, probably telling him some twisted version of who I was. How unreasonable the angry farmer had become. They didn't notice the change. Not at first. The field looked the same from the edge. But I had worked through the night, meticulous, precise, laying down the new trap. With quiet hands and burning focus, I didn't need nails or spikes or fire. I needed nature. And one very specific beast. He had a name. His name was Thunder, a massive charcoal black bull, with curved horns and eyes that read, "Your soul before deciding whether to charge." He was bred for strength, for defiance, for the kind of raw energy that doesn't flinch at steel. My father used to say, thunder had the mind of a man and the temper of a god. He was kept in a secure pasture far from the field. Had been for years. But today, he had a new mission. I had reinforced the fence overnight, guided him gently into the lower field, where she always cut through. And I left the gate unlatched. She rolled forward, red metal flashing in the light. And just as her wheels touched the path between the rows, thunder stepped out. I watched her face. The exact moment, confusion turned into horror. She hit the brakes, but thunder didn't stop. He didn't charge. Not yet. He simply stood there, breathing heavy steam, curling from his nostrils, head low, watching her with quiet judgment. I couldn't hear what they said inside the car, but I could see panic. The man pointed, shouted. She reversed a little, then stopped. Thunder took a step forward. Deliberate, slow, wasn't attacking. He was claiming his ground, his rules, his fury. The SUV jerked forward, trying to swerve past. Thunder moved in again. Head tilted, a low-sound building in his chest. Not quite a roar, not quite a grunt, but something primal. Then it happened, Seekeith. Man in the passenger seat yelled something. She floored it, and the SUV tried to shoot past Thunder on the right. Wrong move, Thunder exploded. He hit the side of that shiny red beast like a freight train. Horn to panel. Metal screamed. The car spun. Wheat flew into the air, and the SUV landed sideways in a ditch on the edge of the field. I didn't move. Thunder stood over the wreck, huffing, stomping head, low like a king, inspecting the rubble of an enemy. The door flew open. The man scrambled out. Shoes slipping in the mud, he waved his arms and shouted, "Get him away. What the hell is that thing?" I walked slowly, deliberately, boots pressing into the broken stalks, eyes locked on the woman still sitting behind the wheel, pale mouth open, frozen. I reached the edge of the ditch, folded my arms, and said, "You were warned." She didn't answer. The man glared. "You think this is funny? That thing could have killed us?" I shrugged. "You trespassed on private land. The bull was in his pasture. You came to him, not the other way around." She finally spoke. A whisper. At first. Then louder. "You trained that thing to attack people? You're insane. I'm calling the police." "Do it. I've got everything on camera this time." Her eyes widened. I pointed to the trees. The cameras were small, hidden, but they saw everything. Every tire track, every moment. And most importantly, every warning she ignored. The sheriff came, lights flashing. He stepped out, tipped his hat, walked over to me first. "Morning, Jack. Heard you had some trouble." I nodded. "Got everything on video this time." They drove through the field. Bull responded, "It's all there." He sighed, looked over at the wrecked SUV, then at Thunder, who stood calmly now, like a statue of justice, made of muscle and bone. The icy woman tried to twist the story. Tears shouting accusations of danger. She claimed I staged it, that I set her up, that I was trying to kill her. The sheriff held up a hand. "Ma'am, you've been warned multiple times. You ignored posted signs. You trespassed. You damaged private property. And you endangered livestock. Now you're lucky no one's dead. But that doesn't mean there won't be consequences." She went quiet. The man muttered something about suing me, said he had connections, said they'd ruin me, but it was empty. The sheriff handed me a copy of the report, said he'd review the footage, said it might be time for a restraining order. They towed the SUV away. Thunder returned to his pasture, calm, satisfied. A god at rest, I stood in the silence after they left. Looking over the field, it was broken, but not beaten, and I was no longer alone. Word spread fast. Neighbors started showing up, not to help, but to gawk. Whispers of the bull, the wreck, the crash. Some even cheered. One man brought me beer, said, "About time someone put her in her place." Another handed me a card lawyer, said he'd been waiting for someone to stand up, that I had a case, now, a real one. I didn't answer. My focus was still on the land, on Thunder, on the future, because I knew this wasn't the end. She was humiliated, but not gone. And people like her. They don't give up. They come back. Worse, smarter. Angrier, but so would too, had found my edge. And I wasn't stepping back. That night, I sat on the porch again. Stars above, a cold wind stirring the wheat. I could hear thunder in the distance, snorting, moving, watching. We were a team now. The next move would be hers, and I'd be ready. 3 days passed, quiet, too quiet, the kind of stillness that doesn't soothe. It watches. Waite's Thunder remained calm. I kept him in the upper pasture, just in case he'd earned the break. But something in the wind told me the storm wasn't over. Not yet. The sheriff stopped by again. He handed me an envelope. Legal documents. Karen was filing a civil suit. Property endangerment, intentional negligence, and a personal injury claim for emotional trauma. I laughed out loud for a full 10 seconds before I stopped and stared at the paper. She wasn't backing down. She was escalating. I looked over the paperwork. It was dense, wordy, full of buzzwords and twisted logic. And it was signed by the man from her passenger seat, her lawyer husband. Of course, they were turning it into a legal war, one she thought I wouldn't be prepared for. She had no idea I spent the next day collecting every video, every timestamp, every letter I had mailed to the county, to the HOA, to her, documenting everything. Then, I paid a visit to a man named Clay. He ran a video editing studio in town, specialized in digital storytelling, corporate reels, but also legal evidence packages. I handed him the flash drive. He raised an eyebrow. "You want the full story?" Told start. To finish, with a narrative flow. I nodded. "Make it clean, make it sharp, and make sure every idiot with internet access understands what she did." He smiled. "You planning to post this?" Eventually, I said, but first, court. Clay got to work, and I got busy. I filed a countersuit. Destruction of private property, trespassing, and an emergency injunction against both of them, backed by footage, sworn statements from neighbors, and aerial drone shots showing the damage trail. The judge scheduled a hearing within the week. That night, I sat in silence, watching the wheat sway gently under the moon. I could hear Thunder grumble softly in his sleep. And I knew we were just getting started. The courthouse was small, just a one-room affair with wood paneling and the smell of old books. Karen arrived in heels, hair perfect face, cold. Her husband wore a smug little grin. They strutted into the room like they already owned it. The judge entered, older, sharp eyes. Not the type to tolerate nonsense, Karen's lawyer began a long-winded performance about fear and danger and psychological trauma. He called Thunder a weapon, said I was reckless, unstable, hostile. Karen dabbed fake tears from her eyes as if they were bidding for sympathy. Then it was my turn. I stood up quietly and handed Clay's video to the clerk. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up, and the courtroom watched. They saw her SUV entering my property. Not once, not twice, but dozens of times. They saw the no trespassing signs, the ignored warnings, the destruction of wheat. They heard her laughing through the window in one clip, calling the land a shortcut, calling me a crazy farmer. Then they saw the day thunder appeared, not charging, not attacking, but standing, defending. The collision, the crash, the panic, and finally, the sheriff's calm report stating she was fully at fault. Silence, total silence. The judge leaned back, folded his hands, and said, "Ma'am, you've made quite a mess." Karen's face turned to stone. He continued, "Not only will this court dismiss your claim, but based on this footage, I am granting the injunction and issuing a temporary fine pending resolution of Mr. Fields's countersuit." Her husband stood. "This is outrageous. That video was edited. It's one-sided," the judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have video to counter it? Any evidence at all?" Silence again. The gavel came down. I walked out. Not smiling, just steady, focused. But inside I was roaring. I thought that would be the end. But I underestimated Karen's obsession. 2 nights later, I was woken by a strange sound. A low hum, lights, voices. I crept to the window, and what I saw made my blood go cold. She was out there, with 2 men flashlights, a trailer trying to open Thunder's gate. I burst out the front door, shouting, "Hey, back away from him!" The men froze. Karen turned. "He's a danger to the public. We're having him removed." "You don't have the right," I shouted. One man stepped forward. "She's got a court document, emergency livestock removal." I laughed. Even in the rage, I laughed. "That's fake. The court just ruled you're trespassing again. And if you take one more step, that bull is going to show you what real danger looks like." Thunder had risen, silent, a shadow among shadows. He stepped forward, horns gleaming. Yow. Men panicked. Karen screamed. Thunder didn't charge. He didn't need to. He just advanced, slowly, deliberately. The 2 men dropped the tools and bolted. Karen tried to run, but slipped, fell into the mud. I walked down, phone in hand, recording everything. "You just broke the injunction and tried to steal livestock." She scrambled to her feet. "You can't prove anything. This wasn't theft. It was protection." I pointed to the flashing red light on the camera post. "That says otherwise. Sheriff's going to love this one," I called him. And 20 minutes later, he arrived, tired, but not surprised. He arrested her on the spot. Trespassing, violation of a court order. Attempted theft of livestock. She kicked and screamed, said it was all unfair, said I was evil. Thunder watched it all, still proud. A silent sentinel under the stars. The video went viral within days. Clay posted it with a full breakdown. Title: Local Karen Gets What She Deserves. After targeting farmer and his bull, millions watched, thousands commented. People sent support. Gifts, legal help, Karen's reputation. Tanked, her husband withdrew the lawsuit, then quietly filed for divorce. Neighbors stopped whispering and started cheering. I wasn't the crazy man with the angry bull anymore. I was the farmer who stood his ground. And Thunder, he became a legend. But something told me this saga wasn't finished yet. Because people like Karen, they don't fade quietly. They scheme, they plot, and I could feel it. In the wind, in the earth, in the silence between the storm hadn't ended. It had only paused, and I would be ready. It brings the story to its thrilling climax and a deeply satisfying resolution. The sun rose over the hills like fire blooming behind the earth. Red light spilled across the wheat like spilled blood, and I felt it in my bones. Today was the day I fed. Thunder early, he stood calmly, chewing, watching the horizon like a general before battle. The pasture was still damp from the morning dew, but the air was warm. Charged, I had fortified the fences, upgraded the cameras, posted fresh warning signs with bright red paint. Not that Karen ever cared about signs. The town had turned public opinion was behind me. Karen was known now online and in person. Not just as a nuisance, but as a threat. She became a meme clips of her screeching, mud-covered face. That viral moment of Thunder stepping forward, edited into music videos, satire parodies, but she was silent now, too silent. And I knew her well enough to know that meant she was planning something. It came in the form of a parade of trucks. 3 of them, unmarked. But I saw city zoning stencils beneath the dirt county vehicles, construction equipment. They rolled in with authority, not bothering to knock, just revving and rumbling to a stop at the edge of my lower field. I walked out, boots crunching. Dry soil, heart slow, even prepared. Karen emerged from the lead truck, dressed in a tailored beige pantsuit, clipboard in hand. Behind her came a county official I barely recognized, a man who looked as uncomfortable as he did. Confused, Mr. Fields. She called out, "This land is being seized temporarily for emergency drainage construction." I stopped in my tracks. What drainage? She held up a paper, a new county directive. I narrowed my eyes. "Let me see that," she smirked. "Not until the work begins. You have 15 minutes to remove any livestock or personal belongings." Thunder let out a deep snort from behind the ridge. I turned to the official. "You know this is private property. You know she has no authority here." He hesitated. "Her husband submitted forms last week, temporary eminent domain clause for regional flooding prevention." "There has been no flooding," I said. "No storms, no request from the town you're being played." Karen stepped forward. "Or maybe you've finally run out of tricks, and the county sees you for what you are, a stubborn old fool with a dangerous animal." I looked past her to the bulldozer, the excavator, the men pacing, measuring. This was it, the final move. She had pulled strings, forged documents, used her. Last cards. But I had one left, too. I turned slowly. Walked back to the barn. Karen yelled after me. "Clock's ticking. You don't want to be charged with obstruction of civil infrastructure." Inside the barn, I opened a steel cabinet, pulled out the thick folder I had labeled "Last Straw Inside Photos," dates, emails, screenshots. Every move she had made since this started. I dialed a number I hoped I'd never have to use. "State Agriculture Compliance Office," came the voice. "This is Jacob Fields, farmer. Registration A729. I'm reporting attempted illegal seizure of farmland under fraudulent zoning claims." The voice stiffened. Details were exchanged. Names, vehicle plates, digital copies sent from my phone to theirs. They told me to hold them off. 10 minutes I walked out. Holding the clipboard Karen dropped when she wasn't looking. Forged signatures, fake engineer stamps. "You messed up. This time you did it on paper." I said. She didn't flinch, but her hand twitched. The county man looked at the clipboard. His face darkened. "You signed this under your name?" I asked. He looked between us. "No, I never authorized this. I don't even have the authority." Karen stepped back. "This is all legal. You can't stop it." That's when the black SUV pulled up, marked with the state seal. Two officials stepped out. Badges displayed, sharp voices cutting through the morning. They approached the trucks, ordered everyone to stop. Every engine cut off. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Karen turned pale. Sweat formed at her temple. "What's going on?" she demanded. "You're being detained pending investigation of zoning fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to unlawfully seize agricultural land," the agent said. "You can't do this." "I have rights," she shouted. "You had them. Now you have charges," he replied. The bulldozer backed up slowly. The workers silent, eyes wide. The county man sat on the tailgate, staring into his hands. I stood quietly, hands folded, letting it all unfold. The agents placed Karen in cuffs. Thunder let out a single loud snort. Perfectly timed, like applause. Neighbors gathered at the fence, recording, cheering. One of them, Tom, raised his phone and yelled, "She messed with the wrong bull and the wrong farmer." Laughter echoed. The agents finished their work, and Karen was driven away. Still yelling, still refusing to believe she lost. But she had, finally, completely. The land was quiet again, the sky clear, wheat shimmering gold under the sun. I walked up to Thunder, scratched his forehead. "You did good, boy. You never charged once. But you sure stood tall." He leaned into my hand. Days passed, then weeks. Karen was charged with multiple counts. Her husband resigned from his law firm. The HOA dissolved under scandal, and my field. It thrived. No more tire tracks. No more shouting, just the sound of wind and the low, steady breath of the bull who protected it. All people still stop by tourists, even wanting pictures with Thunder. The local legend, I let them. As long as they bring him apples. I even made T-shirts. Thunder Justice Farm. Picture of him mid-step. Captioned "Mess with the wheat." You get the horn, sales paid for a new barn wing, and a scholarship fund for local agriculture students. One evening, a girl asked me, "Are you scared she might come back?" Looked across the sunset field and said, "She might, but this land has roots, and this bull has a memory." And I walked away, sun behind me. Future ahead, justice served.